So first and foremost, are there any other terms that you want to throw out there that you've heard or that you know have been tossed out?
I mean, I popped a, and you mentioned a couple of these. I slipped a rib, I popped a rib.
Yeah.
You know, my pelvis slid,
Mm-hmm.
my hip slid, or like someone will be like, genetically one of my legs is longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like the docs always told me my legs, one leg, like my right leg is longer, so I strike more. So, I
Yeah.
have more problems on my right side, or
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you know, I um I think that outside of those, you kind of mentioned just about everything else that gets said on a day-to-day basis. And I
Mm-hmm.
think something to make note of here is that when those terms are said, oftentimes maybe they've been said by a practitioner in or out of chiropractic, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they haven't. But I think that what a lot of times people are grasping at is a conceptual understanding of what's happening with their body,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or a desire to understand, but maybe using wrong terminology like people do when you walk them through a Bulgarian split squat or this or that. You walk them through an anterior or posterior pelvic tilt when you walk them through things and you use words that are not in their vernacular, right? That are
Yeah.
not in their day to
Yep.
day usage. They remember statements or they remember some sort of combination of words there to try to be able to communicate it to other people to show them that they're not crazy. They're like,
Yeah.
no, 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 what I'm doing is working because doc said da 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 da.
Yeah. It's got a fancy, whether or not it's a simple term like unbalanced, right? Or slipped,
Mm-hmm.
or it's an actual like, degenerated joint,
Mm-hmm.
right? DJD, degenerative joint disease, a fancy, explanation of what they have going on to validate it. Um, yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I just remembered that I had a conversation with a patient the other day where, he had what was called an anterior segment, right? Anterior meaning forward or front. So one of his segments had moved uh, minimally a little bit more forward, right? And that's a term in chiropractic that's used to kind of isolate and designate, what had happened to one segment. Okay, because
Segment of his spine. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, segment of his spine, right?
So essentially, like it's in a line, and then one is more forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And we're not talking if these were two vertebrae,
Uh huh.
right? Okay. And like my knuckles are the front.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking like it's totally, off the spine, right? We're talking like millimeters, even maybe half a millimeter, right? So I think and so it's gonna determine whether I adjust that patient from the back or from his front side. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where I lay him on his stomach or I lay him on his back to adjust him. So, but he kind of he was curious about it because he'd never heard that before. So I just broke that down for him. Hey, it just changes up the way that I need to adjust you. That's all, right? There's nothing wrong with you. So, but I think too, one thing I want to touch on as well, James, before I kind of go into each of those like words and kind of break those down that we just went over, is people when they come in and get adjusted. So at our office, right, we don't recommend that people just come every time that they're feeling a symptom, right? Because you're not really fixing the problem. You're just kind of you're masking the symptom. So they'll come in and they'll kind of think that, oh, am I out of alignment? Like it's not holding. It's we're not you're not meant to be super glued into one position, right? When we get into, knock on wood, hopefully nobody, listening to this ever gets in a car wreck, right? Or, for those people that watch football or even play football, right? Some of those collisions that you see, there's a reason why people aren't just getting hit and then dying on the spot. We're pretty durable. People get in massive, wicked car accidents, and albeit, it's I'm not advocating for people to get into accidents, but they live through it. They're unfortunate when they do happen, but we're durable species. So when you walk into an office to get adjusted, and whether it's your first time or whether it's your 200th time, right? It's not a matter of oh my gosh, my bones aren't holding where they should. No, you're meant to move. You sit in awkward positions, you walk a lot, you stand. We're in non-ergonomical settings. We're not meant to be in perfect posture 24/7, 365. So a lot of times what I have found and what I believe more so with chiropractic to do for people is it changes your nervous system, it changes your neurology. So if you're somebody who's like super tight, right? Okay, and that can be from if you just go and you did a heavy workout that involved that certain muscle group of the body, yeah, right. Or if you're just incredibly stressed and that's just where you hold all your issues in that particular tissue, and I know that rhymed.